Age of Empires 2 is considered one of the best and is one of the most beloved RTS games ever created. And I think that a reason for this is probably because it has such a wide range of appeal, because it has many different play styles that players can choose from. My favorite play style is called Deathmatch, and it seems to me that not very many people actually play this game mode. And I think that that is a mistake for the majority of the player base of AoE2 HD. And that's why today I'm going to give you 5 reasons I believe that the average Age of Empires player would enjoy to play Deathmatch. The first reason is because Deathmatch has a much faster pace than your average AoE2 HD game. Now, you might be tempted to think that this is simply because you start with a lot more resources. And while, yes, this does allow you to get into the game faster, the real reason that it has a much faster pace is because the standard settings of playing Deathmatch are post-Imperial start age, game speed fast, and the map is already explored. And what this does is it kind of bypasses a lot of the parts of the game that are considered boring by many of the players who play it. Now, I understand that many people really enjoy the race to get to Imperial Age first, and they like to do Feudal Age aggression and all this stuff. However, from my experience, the average kind of medium level AoE2 HD player kind of just waits until maybe Castle Age to do aggression. And what this means is there's kind of a lot of just boring time. And so what Deathmatch does is it allows you to jump right into that. Reason number 2. Deathmatch has a somewhat different but somewhat similar play style to Random Match. Now, the reason that Deathmatch is different is because of the previously stated settings. And what this basically means is that an early game is not the Dark Age, you're exploring and all this stuff. Early game is trying to rush and /or fend off your opponent's rushes. It has a mid game, which is basically trying to build up your economy and whilst still trying to keep the pressure on your opponents. And then there's the end game, where you basically close out the game. This might happen after gold is gone, and it might happen before. It just depends on how many players there are, what type of map there is, and just the game itself. Deathmatch is similar because the units are still the same and the base game is still the same. However, the difference can be a welcome change from the boring same old, same old. However, there's still other differences than simply the order of gameplay. And this brings me to my third reason, which is Deathmatch is different because you get to use different units and upgrades and different unit combinations that chances are you probably would not use normally in a random match game. For example, it'd be difficult to properly use a fully upgraded Elite Cataphract in a random match game. It would not be the best choice to use Goth Bombard Cannons because of their gold cost, and it'd be difficult for a normal Koreans player to actually be able to use that really destructive Death Ball at the end because of its reliance on gold. But you'll be able to do this and much more in a deathmatch game. Now, my next 2 reasons are slightly more subjective than those other reasons were, and I apologize for that, but I think that they're still pretty compelling, and these are just my personal reasons for why I choose to play Deathmatch most of the time. And so, the 4th reason you should play Deathmatch is because Deathmatch has larger and more numerous battles than, say, Random Match or something else like that. And the reason for this is because Deathmatch is just a larger scale game than Random Match in my experience. I guess this is because there's more resources and it's a late age game and it's oftentimes played with 300 or 400 and even 500 max population. And what this just does is it allows for much larger games than there are normally. And I think that the reason this is appealing to me is because it's kind of more realistic and it's more what medieval warfare was about. I don't think that you had groups of 10 two-handed swordsmen fighting each other, and whoever won would basically decide who wins the game, because every now and then that happens. Battle is decisive like that in Age of Empires, and I just think that that takes away some of the fun that Age of Empires has to offer. But Deathmatch, fortunately, kind of offers this back, because you have these huge groups of guys, and in all honesty, it's just kind of cool to watch. And this allows for really fun tactics, like if you're Japanese you can do 20 trebuchets, or if you're the Koreans you can have this huge Korean death ball. Now these sort of things are completely possible in a random match game, however it's just much more difficult to get to there, and it's a lot more fun to do it in deathmatch in my opinion. Now I understand that this is kind of just simply personal opinion, and this might not matter to some people, but it's what adds enjoyment to the game for me, and I think it'll do the same for other people, and if it adds enjoyment to the game, you should play it. That's the way I see it. Now before I show you my final reason for why you should play deathmatch, I'm going to give you a bonus reason. You can actually play as the Turks and not automatically lose. Just kidding. Sorry about that. Now, to be serious though, I think that the last reason that I think that you would enjoy to play deathmatch is because it's actually a lot easier to learn than a normal game in my experience. Now, this might be surprising to someone who has tried to play deathmatch but then stopped playing because they were kicked out of a lobby, because they had 1600 elo, or because they were rushed by someone who was using the Huns or the Goths. But once you watch a couple of videos of people playing deathmatch or spectate games, and if you get in a lobby with other people who are new to it as well, I think you'll find that the early game, which is probably the hardest part to learn, is actually relatively simple. And once you get past that, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun with people. And this, my friends, are the 5 reasons I think you would enjoy to play deathmatch.